what's up guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here then welcome to our little corner of the internet. Today we're going to be watching a video titled The 10 Greatest Presidents in American History, and I'm so excited for this one, so without further ado, let's see what this video is about.
From saving the Union from total collapse, to staring down nuclear annihilation, to taking a bullet to the chest and still delivering a 90-minute speech. These are the 10 greatest presidents in American history. These guys were so legendary, they make the rest look like amateur hour. Sorry, Buchanan. But first is Calvin Coolidge, who isn't exactly a household name. In fact, most people would say, wasn't he that quiet dude? And yeah, they called him Silent Cal because he barely spoke. Legend has it, a dinner guest once told him, I made a bet I could—
That's wild though, to be president and to like barely speak. What do you mean? How do you even get to presidency?
Get more than 2 words out of you. Coolidge looked at her and said, you lose. Haha, good one, sir. But although he wasn't chatty, Coolidge was effective. He inherited a country drowning in scandal. Before him, Warren G. Harding and his cronies looted the government and stuffed their pockets with cash on their way out the door. So Silent Cal cleaned house, restored public trust, and presided over one of the most prosperous decades in American history, the Roaring '20s. Under his watch, taxes went down, the economy boomed, and the national debt got slashed. Life was pretty good.
Bring him back to office. I mean, what can I say?
In Martini. Extra dry. So no, Coolidge didn't give big speeches or start massive programs. He just got out of the way and let America thrive. But speaking of golden eras, next up is James Madison. At just 5'4" and 100 pounds soaking wet, Madison was the smallest president in U.S.
5'4". Is that shorter than me? No, it's not. Okay.
history. But don't let the size fool you. He was an intellectual giant. 'Cause long before he ever stepped foot in the White House, Madison earned the title of Father of the Constitution. He drafted most of the document and the Bill of Rights. So when Madison took office in 1809, he knew the playbook better than anyone alive. And it's a good thing he did, 'cause Britain was starting trouble again. They were boarding American ships, kidnapping sailors, and forcing them to serve in the Royal Navy. Hey, get your hands off him! So America entered the War of 1812, also known as the Second War of Independence, because Britain clearly wanted a rematch after losing the first time. Haha. And while the US didn't gain any territory, and yeah, the White House might have went up in flames, it was still a victory, because Madison sent a message loud and clear. America wasn't going to be bullied anymore. You tell him, sir! And a wave of patriotism swept over the
Nice.
nation. But if we're being honest, none of that could have happened without this next president, Andrew Jackson. A dude so tough, he once got shot in the chest during a duel and still killed the other guy.
I can't lie, I haven't really heard like these names before. Or maybe I have, but they just don't ring a bell right now. Like, I thought I knew most of the past presidents, but clearly I don't.
No joke. He literally walked away with a bullet in his chest for the rest of his life. Sir, would you like a doctor to look at that? But Jackson wasn't just a fighter. He was a man of the people. 'Cause before him, every president came from the elite. Wealthy families, Ivy League education, and powdered wigs. But Jackson, he was born poor, raised tough, and clawed his way to the top. And that grit showed up on the battlefield. 'Cause during the War of 1812, Jackson led a ragtag militia into the Battle of New Orleans and crushed a British army twice the size. The victory was so legendary, it catapulted him to national hero status, and eventually into the White House. But while everyday Americans were cheering, the elites were sweating. 'Cause oh boy did Old Hickory come in swinging. He dismantled the Second Bank of the United States, an institution he viewed as a monster that propped up corrupt elites and crushed the common man. And when he was finished, Jackson became the only president in US history to completely wipe out the national debt. Yep,
Damn.
$0. Which sounds insane when you look at the $38 trillion we got today. But before Miss Flappy yells at me, we gotta be honest. Jackson's legacy isn't all glory and grit.
I mean, to have a president itself who actually thinks about the good for the people is a win, but damn. Zero debt, is that even possible?
His treatment of Native Americans, especially the forced relocation known as the Trail of Tears, was devastating. A permanent stain on his presidency that just can't be ignored. Which is why he's below this next president, John F. Kennedy, the youngest elected president in American history. Charismatic, handsome, and ridiculously quotable. Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. But JFK wasn't just smooth talk. When the Soviets placed nuclear missiles in Cuba, just 90 miles from Florida,
I forgot how old was he when he was elected though.
world came within inches of nuclear war. For 13 straight days, humanity held its breath. His generals wanted him to invade, but JFK kept cool, negotiated, and got the missiles removed without firing a single shot. Now that's what I call leadership, sir. But JFK didn't just save us from World War III. He also looked to the stars. 'Cause he launched the space race and challenged America to do the impossible. Put a man on the moon by the end of the decade. I'm ready for liftoff, sir. But tragically, JFK would never live to see it happen.
Oh no. I was like, was he the one who started that?
But before we explored the stars, we actually expanded westward with James Polk, who might be the most underrated president ever. 'Cause when Polk took office in 1845,
I can't take it seriously, guys.
he made 4 promises. 1. Acquire California. 2. Settle the Oregon boundary. 3. Lower tariffs. And 4. Establish an independent treasury. And unlike most politicians who are all talk and no follow-through, Polk actually delivered on every single promise.
Nice.
He expanded the United States by over 1.2 million square miles through the annexation of Texas, the Oregon Treaty, and the Mexican Cession, which added California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, and parts of Colorado, Wyoming, Kansas, and Oklahoma. That's more territory than any other president in U.S. history. But here's the craziest part. He promised to serve only 1 term. And in classic Polk fashion, he kept that promise too. Polk got in, got it done, and got out. Man, I wish most politicians work like that. Hey, are you trading stocks again? But unlike Polk, who served 1 quick term, Franklin Delano Roosevelt was elected 4 times in a row. And there's a reason Americans kept voting for him. 'Cause when
I'm guessing this one I've heard that he was in a wheelchair, but nobody really knew that he was in a wheelchair, right? Right? Also, it's so weird to think how much the world can change because of one person, guys. I don't know. I always have these I know you guys laugh at me because I'm like, you understand how the world, but it's just, I don't know. I just find it so fascinating. How much influence a person can have in history and in the future and everything. It's just wild.
FDR took office in 1933, America was falling apart. The Great Depression destroyed the economy. Unemployment hit 25%, and people were literally starving. And FDR's response? The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Great pep talk, sir, but I think we need to help put food on the table. So FDR got to work and launched the New Deal, a package of programs that put millions back to work, created Social Security, and rebuilt the country from the ground up. Bridges, dams, roads, national parks. A lot of what you see today was built under FDR. You like the Hoover Dam? New Deal. The Blue Ridge Parkway? New Deal. Thousands of post offices, courthouses, and schools? All New Deal, baby. But even that was nothing compared to what came next. World War II. 'Cause FDR didn't just lead, he transformed America into a global superpower. In 1939, America had a smaller army than Portugal. But by 1945, we had 12 million soldiers in the most powerful military on Earth.
That's crazy. In 1935, that was like less than 100 years ago. And now America's army is like the strongest in the world and the biggest. And for that to happen in what? In 6 years?
12 million
Damn.
soldiers in the most powerful military on Earth. Hoorah! And back home, he built what he called the arsenal of democracy, converting American factories into a war machine that produced more planes, tanks, and ships than anyone thought was possible. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention that he did all of this from a wheelchair. Polio had paralyzed his legs in 1921, and he never walked unassisted again. But FDR obviously didn't let it stop him. He wore heavy leg braces, stood tall for speeches, and carefully hid his disability from the public. Because he knew more than anyone, the country needed to see strength. Sheesh. And I'm over here complaining about my toe fungus. What? It's a
Yeah, I know. This does make me feel like, what have I done?
serious condition, okay? But if you thought FDR was impressive, get ready for Thomas Jefferson, the man who wrote "All men are created equal," and then spent his presidency proving it wasn't just a slogan. Well, mostly. He wrote about liberty while owning slaves, despised big government,
What?
yet expanded presidential power. A man of his time, yet somehow centuries ahead of it. And it took exactly that kind of paradoxical brilliance to pull off the Louisiana Purchase, which might be the greatest real estate deal in history. 'Cause when Napoleon was broke,
All of that area was purchased afterwards? What?
losing wars in Europe, and desperate for some cash, Jefferson slid in with an offer. $15 million for the entire Louisiana territory. 828,000 square miles for roughly 3 cents an acre. Napoleon agreed, and just like that, Jefferson doubled the size of the United States with a single signature. That's like buying
When was that though?
all of Manhattan for a pizza. Extra cheese. And with that one deal, Jefferson bought land that would eventually become 15 states. Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri, Iowa, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, New Mexico, Texas.
I am confused. I watched some videos on the history of America. What the did it not like get in my brain or what? Like this is news to me. Also, before I even started this channel, I didn't even know that you could buy land off of other countries. I thought that everything was seized with war. How funny is that? I mean, it's such a basic thing and such like common knowledge, probably, and logical, but no, I thought that that's not a thing. But what? But what year was this? Doesn't that mean then that what? I don't get it.
Montana, Wyoming, and Colorado.
My brain just exploded.
Oh, and parts of Canada too. Fine weather we're having, eh? But Jefferson didn't stop there. He wanted to know exactly what America had just bought. So he sent in Lewis and Clark and instructed them to document everything. Plants, animals, rivers, mountains. If it existed west of the Mississippi, Jefferson wanted it in
Now that sounds like a fun job to have.
writing. So Lewis and Clark embarked on their famous expedition and mapped a path all the way to the Pacific Ocean. Not bad for just 3 cents an acre. But overseas, Jefferson had another fight on his hands. The Barbary Wars. A conflict where North African pirates were kidnapping American sailors and demanding ransom. Jefferson took one look at the ransom, laughed, and sent in the Marines. Hoorah! To the shores of Tripoli isn't just a line from a Marine Corps song. It's because Jefferson literally said no more. The guy was a straight-up Renaissance man. Architect, inventor, philosopher, president. But America wasn't done producing larger-than-life characters. 'Cause up next is Theodore Roosevelt, the most badass president to ever live. And honestly, it's not even close. This guy got shot in the chest while giving a speech and didn't even flinch. He opened his coat, saw the blood spreading across his shirt, and told the crowd it takes more than that to kill a bull moose. Then proceeded to finish a 90-minute speech with a bullet lodged near his heart.
This is another one that I saw before, but the more I think of it, the more insane it gets because how, like, first of all, the pain. The pain. Even if you were in shock, I think it would wear out before those 90 minutes. And second of all, how did he not bleed out? Like, how is that physically possible? Wild.
Absolute savage. But here's the crazy part. Teddy wasn't always a tough guy. As a kid, he was sickly, weak, and had severe asthma. So his father told him, "You have the mind, but not the body. You must make your body." And Teddy took that to heart. 'Cause he began lifting weights, boxing, hiking mountains, hunting bears, and forged himself into one of the
Bears? Bears have been mentioned. Okay, I am ready now.
men in America. USA! USA! And that grit earned him enough respect to lead the Rough Riders, a volunteer cavalry unit that charged up San Juan Hill in the Spanish-American War. He ended up winning the Medal of Honor for that one. But as president, he was known as a trust buster. 'Cause at the turn of the century, massive monopolies ran the show. Standard Oil, U.S. Steel, and the railroad barons grew so massive, they controlled the economy from top to bottom. So as a result, Teddy filed 44 antitrust lawsuits, broke up Standard Oil into 34 separate companies, and put corporations on notice. You will play by the rules. Which truly set the standard for government regulation of big business. But when he wasn't taking down monopolies, Teddy was out protecting nature. 'Cause he also created the national park system.
I like Teddy. I like him. But he was fighting bears? Was that way? I still like him. Good guy.
Protecting 230 million acres of public land for future generations.
Nice.
Thanks to Teddy, we have Yellowstone, the Grand Canyon, Yosemite, and some of the most beautifully protected land on Earth. Heck, I can fly freely without being hunted. Thank you, sir. Oh, and did I mention he read a book a day, wrote 35 books himself, spoke French and German, was a champion boxer, and the teddy bear is named after him. Yeah, Teddy Roosevelt didn't just occupy the...
You're kidding. Is Teddy Bear actually named after a president? How did I not know that? Teddy, I've never thought about where the word Teddy comes from. Oh, my mind is blown. Teddy Bear, Teddy. Nah. That changed my whole life. Teddy Bear is named after a president. Wild.
presidency. He died.
That can't be true, though. But what else does it mean, Teddy? I'll need to talk about this to my therapist.
Dominated it. Not bad for a kid with asthma. Here's your inhaler, sir. But speaking of dominating the Oval Office, next up, we got Abraham Lincoln, the man who saved the Union. 'Cause when Lincoln took office in 1861, the country was already coming apart at the seams. 7 states had seceded before he was even inaugurated. And within weeks, full-blown civil war. A war that would go on to claim over 600,000 American lives. The bloodiest and perhaps darkest conflict in American history. But even when the country seemed beyond saving, Lincoln stood tall. Multiple generals failed under his command. His cabinet doubted him, and the public begged him to quit. But Lincoln refused. He kept replacing generals, kept pushing forward, and never quit on preserving the Union. And in 1863, he issued the Emancipation Proclamation, declaring that all slaves in Confederate states shall be then, thenceforward, and forever free. It didn't free everyone overnight. That would take the 13th Amendment, but it did transform the war. 'Cause suddenly, this wasn't just about preserving the Union. It was about freedom itself. But then came Gettysburg, the bloodiest battle of the war, where Lincoln delivered a speech that lasted just 2 minutes. But those 2 minutes still echo through history. "Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty, and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal." 272 words. That's all it took to remind America what it was fighting for. And when the war finally ended, Lincoln called for malice toward none, charity for all, urging the nation to heal rather than seek revenge. But tragically, Lincoln never got the chance to see it through. Just 5 days after Robert E. Lee surrendered, Abraham Lincoln went to Ford's Theater to see a play when John Wilkes Booth crept into the presidential box and shot him in the back of the head. Honest Abe died the next morning at 56 years old. And his body was placed on a funeral train that traveled across the country so Americans could say goodbye. And man,
This is new information to me too. That's wild. That's so sweet though. That's so wholesome. Am I gonna cry about Abraham Lincoln? Don't get me started today.
I just wish Lincoln could see the impact he had on his fellow Americans. 'Cause millions lined the tracks to watch the funeral train pass.
That is so sad.
Silent, grieving, and watching as the man who saved the Union would never see it rebuilt. But Lincoln's legacy lives on. He's carved into marble in Washington, stamped onto the penny and the $5 bill, etched into Mount Rushmore, and forever embedded in the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery once and for all. He kept America one nation and proved that the promise of liberty was worth dying for.
Why do you have to make it so dramatic? Oh my goodness. That's so sad though. That's so sad. I was not ready for that.
But before we shed any more tears, it's time to recognize number one, the father of our country, the original GOAT, the man without whom there would be no America, George Washington. 'Cause before he was president, he won the Revolutionary War, defeating the most powerful military on earth with a ragtag army of farmers, blacksmiths, and volunteers. Half these guys didn't even have shoes. But Washington had something the British didn't. He refused to quit. 'Cause when he lost New York, he retreated and regrouped. When his army was starving at Valley Forge, he stayed with them. And when men deserted, he recruited more. And then came Christmas night, 1776, when the Revolution was nearly dead. Washington crossed the freezing Delaware River in the middle of a snowstorm and launched a surprise attack. It was bold. It was crazy. But it worked. And for 8 years, Washington held the army together through impossible odds, until finally, in 1781, he trapped the British at Yorktown and forced them to surrender. America was finally free, and Washington was the most famous man in the world. But somehow, it gets even more legendary. 'Cause after the war, Washington could have been king. The army loved.
I don't have that much to say. We watched a whole video on Washington as well, and the wars and all of that, and it's a wild story.
Loved him. The people worshipped him. And some officers urged him to take power and rule. But Washington said no. He gave up power and went home to Mount Vernon. Apparently, King George III heard about this and said, if he does that, he'll be the greatest man in the world. And he was right. 'Cause in an age of emperors and kings, Washington walked away. That has never happened before. But when it came...
I mean, who? Washington is mysterious. Who would say no to that? That's a very, very pure person.
Came time to choose our first president, America only had one guy in mind. So they pulled him out of retirement, and the Electoral College voted unanimously for George Washington. Twice! No other president in history has achieved that. And as president, Washington didn't just hold the office. He defined what it is today. Everything he did set a precedent. 2 terms max, peaceful transfer of power, and a cabinet of advisors. Honestly, if he had saluted the flag with his foot, we'd probably still be doing it today. That's how much influence he had. But one of Washington's most enduring legacies was his farewell address, because in it, he warned about the dangers of political parties, permanent alliances to foreign nations, and regional rivalries like North versus South. Pretty much everything in it came true or is still relevant to this day. Sir, could you predict the future or something? Nowadays, Washington's face is on the dollar bill, the quarter, and carved into a mountain.
Oh my goodness, hold on. Wait, this is not Washington though, is it? It's not. Franklin. Who's Franklin? Who is this man? I got this from one of you guys. I made a video about the P.O. box opening. I think it's so beautiful. We're going to have to put it in the background in a what is it called? You know, in a thing. Very, very cool.
The nation's capital bears his name
In a frame.
and the monument stands taller than any other in Washington, D.C. Because at the end of the day, a lot of men can wield power, but how many have the power to let power go? And that's why he's number one. First in war, first in peace, and first in the hearts of his countrymen. But there you have it, the greatest presidents in American history. Not only did they crush it at their jobs, they literally shaped the nation. And I would give my life for every single one of them. I love you guys. And believe it or not, they're actually pretty fun outside of work too. This is every president's favorite hobby. From driving an amphibious car into a lagoon, to secretly riding a mechanical horse in the White House bedroom, to boxing so hard as president, he literally went blind. So click this video right here and check out how the presidents spent their free time.
I kind of want to watch that now. This was such an interesting video too. Like, there was a lot of information that I did not know about at all. I mean, my mind was blown a few times during this video with the teddy bears, with the train. I mean, I really enjoyed that video. Thank you so much, guys, for joining me for this one. I hope you liked it as much as I did. Please leave a like, subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!